Well, hello, friend. I just wanted to go over a recap of what I've been doing in videos lately, and then I'm going to go into a new part to give you a better comprehension of some of the things I've been saying. So, I've been telling you about God in the beginning, right? So, in the beginning, there was only God, the Father's in the Son's in the Father, and creation was made through Christ, right? It says so right in the Bible. So, since it was only God in the beginning, there is nothing out here because otherwise God would have had to been in creation when he created creation. Therefore, he is the original consciousness that created it all. So, this is the best way for you to understand it in such a way that it will be helpful to you, right? Then he told you that he took this thought of Satan and he cast it into creation, right? So, you have Christ and you have Satan. What Christ came to do was to divide the divine nature of God in creation, right? So, because he's cast Satan into creation, that's where he's at. He's not somewhere else. He's in your head and he's in my head. And when two or more gather in the name of Satan, selfishness, well, then Satan's selfishness gains strength. And then the condition of the men become worse than the first because then we will justify our hate and our hypocrisy, right? So Satan by himself doesn't have a lot of power, but the more of us that gather in his name, the more power he has. And I'm going to go into why I'm talking about that. So in creation, my Father created the divine plan. Die, vine. Die equals two, vine equals fruit. So my Father created a divine plan with the fruit of two vines. And you have the choice of which one you're going to do. Jesus told you that he was the rock and you would fall on him and get broken into pieces, two pieces. And then that's love and selfishness, right? That's dividing the divinity within you, Christ and Satan. Then you're going to choose to follow Christ, which is doing what he asked, and that will lead you to the kingdom. And you will know that you're carrying a white stone with your name on it because you know Christ. But there's a lot of the church that doesn't know Christ at all, right? I'm never lying to you, friend. They don't know anything. They're just justifying hypocrisy so that they can feel good about murdering each other. That's fine, but that's not getting you into my Father's kingdom. I'm just being very clear to you about that, right? Okay. So now, what I came on here to talk about today a little bit was this thought of Satan. Because in the Bible it said we give it flesh, right? And that Satan is what is not, yet is. It could never be because God is and God is love, and therefore, since God is all there is in the beginning, it is what is not, yet is, right? So this thought of Satan really has no power at all, except for the power the Father lets it have for the purpose it serves, and that's to give you free will. So if you freely choose selfishness over love, Satan over Christ, then you'll be cast from the kingdom because Christ said so. You won't know that unless you go read his parables, because he told you everything. It's just nobody ever listened to him, right? That's the reason they didn't like the agnostics. The agnostics used to think there was some sort of accountability they had, and Christianity, because they wanted to milk you like a bunch of cows, they needed you to believe in grace and grace alone and not look at Jesus, so they made it all about Paul. But if you properly interpret Paul, you would actually see that Paul wasn't telling you not to follow Christ. Indeed, he said, abide in Christ. So that means you have to abide in his words, or else you don't enter my Father's kingdom because Christ said so, right? So now I'm going to kind of set up this thing so I can show you the thought of Satan made flesh in the world. Okay, friend. So I've told you that a publicly traded corporation is the thought of Satan made flesh, right? Because what they do is they create no accountability for anybody involved in the murdering that they do, whether you want to admit that or not. I'm going to show you a number of different ways on how they're killing you and your children, and you can decide whether I'm telling you the truth or a lie. Yes, because I speak this truth, do you think Satan's going to come straight out of hell and knock me off my horse? Well, of course, right? But didn't the Bible tell you that? Didn't he tell you that he was going to send a rider to drag Satan into hell? I hope you all are getting it. So you have the board of directors, right? And the CEO. Now, the CEO runs the company. They're designed for pure selfishness. Here in America, capitalism is based on the fact that if everybody does what's as selfish as possible for themselves, it'll maintain balance. Well, that's true for the corporate elite. But what they've done is they've monopolized this country, right? And the entire world pretty much at this point. You know, the World Economic Forum and all that. So what's happening is instead of it working out good for all of us, it's only working out good for those that have everything, and they are conglomerating the wealth. And in the end, this nation's going to fall because it has become the worshiper of Satan, right? Made flesh. I'm just being honest with you. So the stockholders are the ones who actually, you're contributing to the death of your children because of what they're doing. You know that Robert Kennedy, if you ever thought he was a liar, you ought to go look. There's all kinds of proof that they are putting toxic chemicals in our food that are making our children sick from the very get-go. The same thing with the pharmaceutical companies. If you all don't even believe that, you are so lost, you don't know Jesus at all, or you're out doing what Jesus said, and therefore you already have the kingdom that I've been telling you is right here. But if you're a person that fell asleep and hasn't done what Christ asked, you better decide what you're going to do, because you ain't going to make it into my Father's kingdom, because he's going to say, I don't know you. He told you that at the end of the age, he was going to say, I was hungry, you didn't feed me. I was naked, you didn't clothe me. I was sick and in prison, and you didn't visit me. Those are the people that claim to be doing this, that prayed, prophesied, and cast out demons in Jesus' name, right? So right there, Jesus is telling you that faith without works is dead, just like James said, right? He told you that he was the vine, you're the branches, and that if you're fruitful, meaning you're bringing him more crop, that he would prune you and make you even more fruitful. But at the end of the age, dead limbs get gathered up and thrown into the furnace. Well, when a limb is unproductive, the tree lets it die, or a vine in, a grapevine, either way, same difference. When it's unproductive, it'll let the limb die because it's unproductive. So you might want to think about Jesus as being the CEO of the coming kingdom. And he's going to have to clean this mess up, right? The purpose of the world is to come to know love by experience. But those of you that don't want to make that choice can't enter his kingdom. And if you don't call him king, you can't enter his kingdom. But the only way to know that what I'm telling you is true is to go read what Jesus said and listen to his parables, because he told you all of this. This is all in Revelation. The rider comes and drags Satan back into hell, right? Where do you think Satan is? He's in your head. I can't drag him out of your head. You have a free will choice to kick him out. You know what I mean? And you're not going to be perfect. It was never about perfection. It's about getting in relationship with my Father. You think that he just created all this for nothing and you're just allowed to run around and hurt each other. That's not true. These are the ones that are hurting you. The corporate elite are the one running these wars, right? So they're poisoning your food and your environment because the stocks have become your bonds. You're willing to put up with it and let your children die because you want to make more profit so you can have more money and have bigger, fancier houses and cars. That's great, but that's not getting you into a kingdom. Jesus said, do not store up your treasure here where moths and rust destroy, but store it up in your secret place, which is with my Father. And the only way to really give him a gift is to give it to your neighbor, right? So I give to you the truth that he gives to me. What he whispers in my inner ear, I shout from the rooftops. He told you that if you come to love him more than the world will hate you for it. Do you think the world's going to love me for this truth? I hope you're thinking about what you're thinking about, friend. But Jesus didn't want to go to his cross. He was willing. I don't have to want to go to mine. I just have to be willing. I have to be willing because Christ said I did. He said that I have to pick up my cross and carry it daily. He said, he who saves his life will lose it, but he who loses it for my sake will gain it. So your churches are lying to you at every turn, and they're telling you not to believe what Christ said. The problem is, if everything Jesus said isn't true, then the Bible's a lie and so is Christ, and therefore John 3:16 was a lie like all the rest of it. Because he told you, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and not do what I ask? So if you're not going to do what he asked, you're going to be like the Pharisees. You're going to stand on the steps of the temple glorifying yourself going, aren't I wonderful? It's all their fault that this world's fallen apart. Why, you've done nothing. So my Father's going to let you experience what you chose. He's going to let your stocks remain your bonds. And because you would let your children perish, he's going to let you perish with them, right? He loves you like you're supposed to love your children. You're supposed to love your children enough not to let this happen. But we don't, because our hearts became hard, right? You're not the only one, friend. I'm the prodigal son, risen right up out of hell. I still have money somehow in stocks. I don't even know how, because I don't know how to get it. I couldn't even access it. I don't even care. They can keep that money. That's blood money, right? So, they're poisoning you every which way because they're trying to make you money. Trump's trying to clean up the government, but the problem is it's the corporations that are running the governments. Not just ours, all the governments, right? And they're using the corporations to manipulate one another. And I'm going to give you a little setup on this. And you can go to the movie on Hulu called The Grab, and you can watch this. And it's your choice whether you want to believe it or not. But they did a lot of research. That dude was scared to death they're going to kill him for making that video. But he's a known journalist, and he did it anyway, knowing the cost. So whether he goes to his cross or not, I can't tell you yet, right? But any of us that stand up against this thought of Satan-made flesh, a publicly traded corporation, they're going to come for us, friend. Right? Every one of us that's willing to stand against it, we know we're going down. And if we don't, it's only because God saves us from ourselves. Because I have to tell you the truth. This is the truth. This is what Revelation tells you. I don't care what you say, friend. Your churches are liars and thieves. Right? Okay, friend. So, what a lot of you don't know is there's a coming water shortage because it's been hidden. The governments are hiding it, everybody's hiding it, but they're using the corporations to manipulate people. And they're using them to deceive you and use your money to hurt people, right? So I'm not going to go into which governments because it doesn't matter, because they're all going to do this at the end. The water shortage that we're starting to come up with here, we already know that China and Saudi Arabia don't have enough fresh water to maintain keeping their own people fed. So they have to go outside of their countries in order to grow crops to keep their people fed. That's why China is buying up all the food or buying up all the farmland in America, right? If you know that. You should know that if you're half awake. So I'm just telling you, this is where you've got insanity coming, friend. So I'm just being honest. Down here in Africa, they have security forces that are protecting corporate farms because the governments are using corporations to hide the truth of who and what they're doing. I'm just telling you the truth. You can go look at The Grab. The Grab lays this all out. It gives you people, it gives you countries, all that. I'm not here to really give you that. So in Africa, they're literally taking people off their lands. They're because they don't own the land like we do. Their ancestors own that land, and that tribe belongs to that land. So there is no real legal rights the way you understand it here in America. So the corporations have no trouble going in there and stealing it out from under them and starving out the Africans, right? If you think that's acceptable, that's unacceptable. I don't care whether it's going to give us water and China water and Afghanistan water or whatever, Saudi Arabia, whatever it is. That's unacceptable. If you're a Christian and you think that's acceptable, you're disgusting. You don't know my Father at all. I'm not talking about immigrants coming into this country. You can't have that because financially it doesn't make sense. But if you think it makes sense to just murder Africans so that we can all, it's just like those mines. They have those mines over there. All of that cobalt that your electric cars run on is done by child slavery in Africa. That's the reason they're trying to steal the land from the people in North Carolina, because people are figuring out they're using child slave labor to create your cars, right? And if you're a Christian and you think that's okay, you're pretty sad. So I'm just telling you the truth, right? You can kill me for it. You can nail me to my cross. I came knowing I was going to it, right? That's what the wilderness goat does. The wilderness goat speaks from the wilderness, tells you the truth, knowing that he's going to his cross, just like the firstborn, right? But you're not doing this in my Father's name. My Father is love. If you're not love, you ain't entering his kingdom. It's that simple. So you're going to have to decide how it is you're going to start helping the world become a better place. I'm not telling you how to do it. You seek my Father and he will give you a purpose. And whatever that purpose is, I don't care whether it's starting to fix the corporations. I don't care if it's feeding the hungry, clothing the naked, and visiting the sick and in prison. That's not between me and you. That's between you and my Father. He's going to give you a purpose. This is the purpose he gave me. My Father created me for one purpose, him. That's it. My Father only created you for one purpose, him. To know love by experience. I have to love him with my whole heart, mind, soul, and strength. And the other one like it is to love you like I love myself, because Jesus said both of those were the two that I was supposed to hang everything on. Here's the problem. If I tell you the truth, you get scared. If y'all don't do nothing with it, this system is coming down. I'm promising you it is. The Bible told you it was. If you're a Christian and you understand the Bible, you can understand that my Father's not going to let the thought of Satan made flesh enter Christ's kingdom. So it's coming down before his arrival. And those of you that can't see that his arrival is near, you're just blind. He told you that the church was going on the threshing floor. It was going through the grape press, the olive press. All these things say the same thing. The church is riding through tribulation, right? The tribulator is what they used to separate the wheat from the shaft. I don't care what your priests and preachers say. Some of you might get out of here. Some of you might be harvested. That's about my Father. That's about his business, not mine. Mine is only to tell you that most of your church, you guys aren't wearing wedding clothes at all, and you aren't making it into the kingdom, so you're riding through tribulation. If you're not out doing what he asked, I can guarantee you're not the harvest. Because Christ told you that, but you didn't listen to him. You listened to the churches lie to you about grace alone. Stop listening to those serpents. They are snakes, and they don't give a damn about you. They care about your money and milking you like a bunch of cows, because if they wanted to know Christ, they would have went and read what he said and did what he asked. Built their house on a rock and then told you the truth, but they didn't. Because they went and got degrees from men, and if they say anything different than what the church is saying, the church will throw them out. I've watched it happen over and over again, friend. I'm one of those people that used to belong to you, tried to go to your churches. Y'all are insane. You think of nothing. Oh, I'm going to get this free kingdom in my death while I let my neighbors butcher my children. No, you're not. So we're all going to do something to make this right? I don't care. We need to feed the hungry, clothe the naked. That's what I was doing before, right? I love my Father, and therefore I have to love all of you. But I can't just love those of you that are sitting in the light, making all the money, leaving the other people starve as these corporations can do, are murdering your kids. I'm not allowed to do that. I'm not allowed to watch you murder your children and ask my Father for a seat at his table, right? I have to tell you the truth, or I don't get a seat at his table. A watchman blows his trumpet, or he gets cast from the kingdom, right? In the beginning, I showed you about the Father's in the Son and the Son's in the Father. Christ breaks the seal so my Father doesn't have to. He breaks the seal on the first rider. I hope you're getting that. And that rider wakes you up. Hello? Okay, friend. So Christ, since you guys understand business more than you understand Jesus, a lot of you Christians, I'm going to kind of give it to you this way. Jesus is a CEO or a farmer. You might even think of him as a CEO of a farm industry, right? So his crop is love. He came and died so that you might live. He sacrificed himself and went through great suffering so that you could be forgiven your debts and that you could rise in the spirit of love. So if crop is the spirit of love, it's not about perfection, but if you're not willing to read what Christ said and do what he asked and rise in the spirit of the law, which is the spirit of love, then instead of building your house on the rock, you built it on the sand, your house is going to fall. As a CEO knows, if a CEO comes in and takes over a corporation, right? Because right now this is Satan's kingdom. Let's look at it that way. So Christ is going to come in and take his kingdom back from Satan. Satan being corporations, right? And from selfishness. Well, the problem is when the CEO comes in, he knows that the company, if it's in the red, which we are in the red major if you can't figure it out, friend, the only way to save that company is to kind of downsize it, right? So you're going to have to get rid of all the spirits of selfishness, which are the spirits of Satan, right? So in order to harvest the crop. And then if he's going to put his kingdom here, that means he can't have the other people that aren't willing to let him be king and rise in the spirit of love can't enter his kingdom. So if you won't clean your wedding garments, you can't make it into the kingdom, right? Jesus told you this. He told you that a lot of you Christians were going to not have enough oil for your lamp because you fell asleep, just like he told you did. So I'm just laying this out. I'm not laying this out to scare you to death. I know it's very scary. I've laid out some things that should terrify you. I don't want to do that. But I want you to know the truth because I'm not here to save your planet. I'm here to fill up my Father's wedding chamber. If you don't want into his kingdom, it's just time to confess it. Confess to the world that you're not a Christian, that you're a liar and a thief, and that you're not going to do what Christ asked because Christ was the truth and the life. And if he wasn't the truth, he wasn't the life, and therefore he's going to say at the end of the age to you, friend, I don't know you, because you have the words in red. I've told you that over and over. Get a red letter edition of the Bible and read what Jesus said in red, period. Right? So yes, because I'm telling you all this, because if you can't see how this is going to clearly work, Jesus is going to clean up his kingdom. He's going to take his kingdom back, right? Satan was allowed to rule it for a little while. You gave Satan flesh, a publicly traded corporation, and it has absolutely ruined the garden, and you let him do it. Because your stocks were your bonds. Now you've got a new choice to make. What are you going to choose? I'm not worried about what's coming, because what's coming you can't stop. I've showed you the layout of America, and you guys plan on drilling oil. If you looked at what I've been showing you, friend, you would know there is no way of saving this world. If you went and looked at the fact that NATO promised that Russia, that they would not enter into the old Soviet states, and now they're in almost every one except for Ukraine. And you can't figure out that if Russia or China put a military base in either New Mexico or, in Mexico or Canada, that we'd have World War III in a second. So Americans want to be all self-righteous and hypocritical, yet they won't even look at what the government and the corporations are doing together to cause Russia to fight, right? So you understand that this is our doing, not theirs. We're all accountable for this, friend, and Christ is going to hold us to it if we're going to just allow it. If having their children murdered for greed is acceptable, you ain't entering my Father's kingdom. So you're going to have to figure out, God, what is my purpose? If you don't have a purpose worth serving, you ain't entering my Father's kingdom. He told you that. You can call me a liar. You can crucify me. I've always known the truth. He gave me a sling to throw rocks at Goliath. That's what I'm doing, friend. I can't take him down, but we can. And I don't want to take him down. I want you to put Satan back on his leash, right? I don't want to see this all go wrong, but it's going wrong, and they are going to make it wrong. They are setting up World War III. Go look at the NATO base they're going to put in Romania, the biggest in Europe. Do you understand why they're doing Romania? Go listen to there's all kind of people telling you all kind of truth, and you guys won't listen to nothing. You Christians are sleepers. You are zombies. You're walking into the zombie apocalypse. So I'm not telling you to go save the world. I'm telling you to get in relationship with Christ, rise in the spirit of love, and then you'll end up receiving my Father's kingdom. But if you don't want a seat at the wedding table, then you're not going to seek the kingdom here. You're going to choose selfishness over love. And the only way to get through the upcoming wrath is faith in God, because you're going to have to walk in the darkness, because Jesus said you did, because he told you the 10 brides would wake up, 5 would have enough oil, 5 wouldn't. I don't light a lamp in the middle of a lit room, right? So you go through the tribulation. I'm not saying every one of you. There are those of you that have risen in the spirit of love, and he doesn't want to lose his crop. I don't understand all that. I don't have to. My Father told me that it doesn't matter. Right? Because you guys have people that are saying pre-trib rapture, You've got the mid-trib rapture, the end rapture, or no rapture at all. And I've listened to all of them, and they all come up with great scripture. But I've also heard them defeat the other people's version too. So I'm not here to tell you that I'm something special, friend. I'm nothing but a wilderness goat, a messenger from my Father telling you, make straight paths for the Lord, friend. He's coming. And if you don't want to enter his kingdom, that's okay. You don't have to. But you will pay your debt, and then you'll be cast from the kingdom, just as Christ said you would in his parables. And I'm talking to Christians because he told you the Pharisees would owe a greater debt. So if you're a Christian Pharisee, you owe a greater debt if you're going to not abide in what Christ said. This is the time that if you're a preacher or a priest, I hope you're not going to lie to your folks. It's time to wake them up to the truth. That Jesus told them he was denying his own disciples, because you guys have told them grace and grace alone and tried to pussyfoot around this. Most of them are going to get cast into the darkness, and here in America, we let it happen. We did this to our kids. We're to blame. So I hope you're getting that. It's time for repentance. Repent. That means admit you're wrong, change your mind. My Father will forgive you all your debt right now. I don't care what you've done, friend. My Father will forgive you because Christ said he would. His blood will cover a multitude of sins, right? But if you're not going to clean your wedding garments, you're not getting into the wedding, and you know what happens if you go into the wedding without your wedding garments clean. He already told you, you get bound and thrown back out. It's all in his parables. And some people say, oh, this already happened way back. What don't you understand where the Bible said that there's nothing new under the sun? Did you notice that we keep repeating this cycle? Rome did what America's doing. This has been going on, superpower after superpower. If you go look, you'll see that history just keeps repeating itself because we're not smart enough to make a new choice. They keep us in the dark. The corporate elite, they know what's going on. They built underground arcs. They think they're going to steal my father's age. I'm here to tell you they're not. You cannot steal Christ's kingdom. Satan's getting dragged into hell. That's a fact. How that happens isn't up to me. I'm only here to tell you that he's going. Right? He's not going to, you're not going to worship him in my Father's coming kingdom. So the Satan made flesh must go. All right, friend. I didn't want to make this video. I never want to make these videos, but this is the truth. I made my Father a promise. He who saves his life will lose it. He who loses it for my Father's sake will gain it. For Christ's sake, right? But it's Christ that's judging you. You understand that? Not my Father. My Father was love in the beginning. He'll be love in the end. The Son's going to judge you, so my Father doesn't have to. And if you go look in Revelation, you'll see everything I'm telling you is there. All right, friend. May God bless you and yours.